Hi.
Why is Hannah here given she just had a baby?
I know, right? I know, because she loves your project so much. She was like, I am not missing this.
It's true. I am mildly fangirling over here. So
I am like blown away. I don't even know what to say about. I've learned so much about like motherhood on this journey because everyone I work with is like a mum. And I'm now understanding the absolute commitment that it is to like show up to work when you fully have just had a baby / even have a toddler. Like, I don't even understand why anyone shows up to anything. I just feel like it's over.
I don't know how it happens either. How I get to the places I'm supposed to get to. I might be late, but at least I get there eventually.
Well, mad respect from me. I'm like, I can't believe you're here. That's crazy.
Well, I am so excited that you agreed to come talk with us because
oh my God, I'm so excited you asked.
I have been following your project for a while.
Cool.
So I purchased during just a little, like details about me, but I purchased during the pre-sale. So
Great.
I was right there. I was in it. So so I'm super excited that you're here and that we can talk about your project and we can hopefully like introduce new people to it. And I've been disconnected for a while because of this. So it'll be nice to kind of catch up for me too, because
cool.
Discord's been sending me some updates, but it's hard to keep up with life in general. So
yeah. That's fine. I feel like Discord is a living nightmare for any human, but any human who has like a big thing on, like, no, thank you, Discord. You can leave.
Well, so, sometimes you just have to silence things and step away and just have some time to yourself. So
yeah, no, I would have thrown my computer out the window if I were you. So I'm with you. Yeah.
So why don't we just go ahead and dive right in? We have a few questions for you, just to kind of get a general idea. The first question that we would like to ask you is just, we want to talk a little bit about you and your project. So if you could just like really basically tell us about yourself and your background and then what your project is all about.
Beautiful. So my name's Geena. I go by GD Anderson on the internet, which was actually a happy accident when I was about 18 years old and I was writing some feminist essays and I wanted to have a little bit of distance between my real life and what I was writing, just in case, I got trolled by the masses. And so I wrote some stuff under the name GD Anderson, and one of the things I wrote took off and ended up in Vogue UK's top 10 feminist quotes with Malala and Melinda Gates and all these people, which I totally deserved to be there. I'd really earned it. So it all made sense to everyone and we were all totally comfortable with it. So that was a thing. And so I kind of utilized that throughout my career to create other things. So that is the origin story of why people call me GD Anderson. And I think that quote probably did quite well because I think people thought I was a guy by going by GD. So, typical misogyny went into that one, which we love to see.
Yes.
But yeah, my story is that in high school, I got sick with Lyme disease and I wasn't able to go to university. And so my traditional career path that I had planned out, because I'm a real planner, absolutely went in the bin. And I had to figure out how I was going to create an interesting life for myself that fulfilled all of my goals of wanting to, do something impactful and give back, but also kind of create interesting things that make people happy. And so I ended up at some point, by a set of weird coincidences, getting a job in Namibia working on some. While over in Namibia working for this massive nonprofit, I got a real crash course in what it was to give back across the board. They did things like wildlife conservation, land conservation, free healthcare for the San Bushman population, all sorts of stuff. And it was a true like welcome to the not-for-profit world.
Wow.
Yes, it was an interesting crash course.
You were really like immersed in it. Like you just went right in. Yeah.
Head first. Yeah. No, I was looking for a nice kind of cruisy job to do while managing my health. And instead it was like, hey, it's 4 a.m. Here's a baby baboon whose mother was shot. This is now your baby for the next 6 weeks. And you're like, oh, okay, amazing. I'll do this while I do everything else. Great.
Yeah.
So it was a real experience, and absolutely, you know, straight in the deep end, learned a lot. But also witnessed period poverty firsthand, because a lot of my co-workers were, we were earning a very small sum of money, and they were dating doctors to get their sanitary products. And I didn't really kind of comprehend it for a while, until I was like, you guys have been in committed relationships for, you know, X amount of time. Why are you like having this kind of affair with this doctor every time we go to the hospital to check on a patient? And they were like, oh, that's how I get my like pads and tampons. And I was like,
wow,
okay, this is a problem. So that became something that I was kind of very aware of, and the fact that it had never even crossed my mind as an Australian. I felt like this was an issue that seemed super solvable to me, and not only solvable, but I knew there were sustainable options that existed. So I didn't see why we couldn't solve it, and solve it kind of long term. And so that led me to starting my charity, the Cova Project, which is all about providing menstrual cups and really significant and strong menstrual health education for girls and menstruators all across Africa. And just ensuring that everybody understands what's going on with their bodies. They kind of get that it's not the shameful experience that every woman before them, generation after generation, has been told it is, and then has an actual solution to ensure that they can menstruate with dignity and go to school full time and not be disadvantaged in the way that they generally are. Because we just hear absolute horror stories of, I mean, in Malawi, it costs twice as much to have your daughter educated as your son, because pads are the same price as annual school fees. So no one's going to send their daughter to school with financial concerns like that. And in Liberia, we hear stories about girls who go to school and they leave the classroom to kind of fashion a makeshift pad out of toilet paper and whatnot. And then their teachers find out that they've done that and call them dirty in front of the class and lash them a couple of times. And it's like, that's not it. So we need to kind of be actively looking for solutions here. And I think when they exist and the issue is really just about distribution, it's like, we got to dive in here. So that's always been my background, and I love what we do at the Cova Project, but there are all sorts of challenges with traditional charities, and we get held to a very high standard while also having lots of money kind of skimmed off the top of us by platform fees and bank fees and exchange rates and all of these things that we can't really control. So even as the Cova Project, running like the leanest operation that's ever existed, we still watch a lot of money walk out the door with those things. And so I got really excited when I learned about blockchain technology, a universal currency that could be transferred wallet to wallet, peer to peer, cut out all those middlemen, you know, start identifying people and saying who's doing awesome stuff for their community. Let's have a conversation about it, and then let's support that individual. Like, let's stop kind of moving money between 45 different hands before it ends up in the hands of the person who's really trying to help their community. And let's just streamline that. And so we started Honey Badgers. It was this kind of rogue effort to say, hey, let's revolutionize philanthropy, and let's look at creating a DAO that gets to choose where the money goes, so that people feel like they are able to kind of, you know, have some personal impact on this philanthropic journey. And let's build it around that. Let's identify change makers, give people the power to vote on the ones that they feel are going to be the most impactful, and then let's fund them directly. And it's kind of, I think, opened a lot of people's eyes up to the fact that giving a micro grant of kind of 1,000 to 2,000 USD to somebody who's literally building like an art center with bricks and concrete, and they would have paid for it with money that would have been putting food in their own mouths, that's a huge amount of money for that person. But giving $10,000, you may still only end up with that $1,000 ending up in the hands of that person. So let's just really kind of like work directly and see how many change makers we can help around the world through a random little NFT project.
It's really amazing that like all the things that we can do with blockchain, and then of course NFTs, which run on whatever chain they're on. But I can't imagine in 5 years like what is going to be possible. Like,
yeah,
I mean, in 2012, when it was pretty much just Bitcoin and some early starters, other options there, I'm sure no one was thinking like that,
yeah,
period products for women who need or want to be educated just like their male peers, like it's amazing to me. It's just amazing. It just blows my mind. And I think I'm just really passionate about blockchain, and I know Jen is as well, because it's just, I can't even imagine what it's going to be like because we're so early here. So that's super cool.
Yeah, just the amount of change that these small grants that are huge to these people are going to create these ripples inside their own communities. And like you said, I mean, you're really disrupting charity on such a foundational level. And I would think probably getting money into their hands a lot faster. I mean, really, you're going from identifying that person straight to here's the money instead of, okay, let me take it back. Let's go through all this red tape. How do we even get money to you? How do we wire the money? What does this look like? And so, I mean, being able to have that kind of power and choice and impacting change, like Hannah says, I mean, you magnify that out by 5 years, it's monumental. That's amazing.
I think, and that's something that, like Jen, a lot of people don't think about, is that timeline. Like when we at the Cova project commit to a new partnership, it might take us 9 months to really execute that partnership. And, that's with us having kind of minimal red tape and whatnot. But the truth is that it's all time that's tied up in, well, we want to move the money at this time because the financial year ends here, and we want to have this, and this has to be done strategically because our annual report has to have this in it. We have to be appealing. We have to be competitive, like all of these things. And when you kind of have which is what we're aiming for in our model, because our model's all based around royalties going into a community wallet and that being distributed. And we're not quite there yet because we haven't sold out our collection. So at this stage, the team is funding everything. But if we move into a sustainable model, it becomes a self-funding model that you don't have to answer to anyone because the community is the one kind of pushing everything forward, which is really exciting. And at the moment, the way we kind of do things is honestly on like a 30-day rolling basis, because we do grants every month. So you kind of get selected, the next week you get paid, and then we have basically like 30 days where it's like, give us an update on your project. But the truth with that as well is there's a real pain point for being given a grant and then the reporting requirements that come with that while you're bloody busy doing stuff for the community. And then it's like, hey, can I have a 10-page report with photos? And it's like, no. So
right, which would you rather have me do? Actually help the people I'm here to help, or do you need this fancy PowerPoint and formatted correctly, and who do I need to copy on this email? And yeah,
exactly. So we just say to people, join Twitter if you want, and put the photos on Twitter. Like, keep it that simple. Let's actually bring it to this peer level where, I mean, every change maker that wins a grant, we give a honey badger to, and we welcome them to join like the Discord and everything. And we truly turn it into a peer-to-peer thing where you're watching I mean, at the moment we have an art center in a refugee settlement going up, and you can literally go on Twitter and watch Mweze build this center brick by brick.
Oh,
Like
cool.
it's just going up on Twitter. And it's so fun for me to be able to say, like, this person is doing this off his personal account. He would be taking these photos anyway. He's really excited to be doing this. But that also gets rid of the reporting requirements. And we get to just be a modern, I put charity totally in quotations here because it's not a charity. It's a totally different kind of funding structure, but it's really like a peer-to-peer ecosystem of trying to support people who are doing good in the world and just do it on a human to human level.
And you have these beautiful pieces of art. I mean, you know, like, I know this isn't your project, but I purchased some meta angels before I heard about honey badges, and I just fell in love with. I've only ever read it. Is it Aslan? Is that right?
Ruby.
Yes. He's
Yes.
just amazing, and her art is just stunning. So I mean, obviously you're it's sort of like your boarding pass into this community. But the NFT itself is, I mean, just show-stopping alone, you know, like it.
Absolutely.
Just love it. I remember when you announced it, I was like, there is no effing way. Like that was, I had just come off the Meta Angels launch, and I was like, all right, that's it. I had already decided I was going to get one, but I'm like, all right, here we go. Wait, let's go.
I know, and it's such a rogue, it's such a Web3 story how this happened, because it's like I had this idea with honey badgers. I'd been in kind of NFTs for a couple of months, not very long, and I was just scrolling through Twitter, and I was running a series called Let's Fund Girls, where I would just highlight female artists just to try and get a little bit more awareness. And it was a pretty low-key series. It was getting like a couple of likes. It really wasn't anything special. But Sarana, who's Aslan Ruby, came across something and she just liked it. And I just saw in my notifications her profile picture, and I was like, that is very pretty. I'm going to click on that, and went onto her page and was like, oh my goodness, this is the artist that I would, if I ever did a generative project, this is the only artist I would work with. And I convinced her to do a call with me, having no idea who she was, like no idea. And I get on the call, and she's this like Aussie New Zealander legend of a human who we just hit it off straight away. Her husband was working as a homelands teacher in very, very remote Australia with Indigenous kids. And everything I said to her about, you know, I love running a charity. I love the traditional charity space, but there are flaws. Like, what can we do to change that? She was so into. And within, you know, an hour of talking, I was like, hey, do you want to go into this massive business with me? And she was like, yeah, let's do it. And so it was just this insane, you know, coming together. And, you know, I don't know how I got so lucky, because it's one of those things where I'm sure you both know what it's like to work with people, hire people, and it's not always the right fit, and you have to navigate all of those social dynamics. And I don't know how I met a stranger through the internet who has become such a wonderful friend, colleague, and kind of business partner. And she's the absolute best. So as well as her art being show-stopping, and I know it certainly blew the Meta Angels team away when they discovered her as well. They couldn't believe what they'd found. And I remember, I think it was Ali's comment underneath one of the posts that we did for Let's Fund Girls, being like, I am like stopped in my tracks. Like, I have to work with this girl. And it was the exact same feeling I'd had. Yeah. And so she's show-stopping in her art, and her personality is just as wonderful as you'd want her to be as well. So it's a real winning combo.
Yeah. She's just wonderful. Absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
No, that's fantastic. So how did you get started? Like, who got you started into crypto? Like, how did you get into this amazing space?
So I think, as I'm kind of saying that the COVID project's a pretty lean operation, we also, I'm the only paid employee in Australia from the COVID project. And for full transparency, I work at the moment for 30,000 AUD a year. So it's not really enough to live independently off, but very lucky for me. I mean, unluckily in some ways, I have Lyme disease, but I have a very supportive family. So I get to kind of live in my family home and not have to stress about things like rent, which allows me to take the salary that I take. So I had a moment in 2021 at the very beginning where I went, okay, this is the year that I make an effort to learn about investing, and I try to create some kind of financial independence for myself through these avenues that I have never had the time and energy to explore. So I just put a bit of time aside and bought a couple of US shares, Australian shares, and cryptocurrency. And my experience was buying Ethereum Classic for like nothing and having it go to $200. And I was suddenly like, oh, I think I just made my COVID project salary. How fun was that? So, and that was a lot less work. So I was,
right? Yeah.
yeah. So I was pretty excited with that outcome. And it very much kind of, sat with me as, okay, I think I need to put a little bit of time into this, because if I can keep my salary this low forever, then that's kind of a dream situation. So I put some energy into really learning about cryptocurrency, was just fascinated by it, doing the big ups and downs. I thought that was, relatively fun to watch happen and experience all of those massive emotional swings that we all go through. And so I did that, and then kind of realized, well, NFTs come along with that. Let's go and check that out now. And I was exploring that when I realized how many female artists were just like killing it in the space. This is really around the time where World of Women was starting to have a pretty significant spike. And so I was super interested in what they were building. And I thought, we're really struggling with the COVID project. We haven't been able to have any events or do any traditional fundraising strategies. Let's come up with an artist collection where we kind of, originally the concept was, let's exclusively collect the royalties. And so the artists get to sell their works and keep their initial sale price. And we will just, as that artist gets bigger and bigger, get this kind of sustainable revenue coming into the COVID project to help fund our activities with menstrual cups and menstrual health education. So I launched into that. We did a small collection called the COVID Dignity Collection, and that was my kind of entry into NFTs, and a very kind of quick and steep learning curve with putting together a collection, having no knowledge other than YouTube University, which is always helpful.
Big fan of that one.
Yeah, God, aren't we all? And it's so cost effective. And yeah, it was just a really interesting kind of entry into NFTs. And I also got very lucky because the people who I identified for that collection back in, I was kind of like October, November 2021, ended up blowing up into like the biggest people in the NFT space. So it was a massive win there. But that was my entry into it, and certainly gave me the bug to go on to honey badgers after that.
That's an amazing entry point, and good thing you started before winter happened. So that was nice that you got to have the run up, instead of like when I purchase stuff, it's always the first day of winter, it seems. So it's awesome, because this project has been pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, it's look, I think the summers and winters of crypto are all kind of fun and games. It's terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying. Like I have a chunk of money in cryptocurrency from honey badgers that was going to be kind of my way of funding everything that we're trying to build, and it's been a huge roller coaster watching that just plummet. But the thing is that you exciting. The thing is that you absolutely have to believe, like, in the technology, and my graph that I just stare at is how many people are opening wallets, and that's always kind of been my thing. And everyone who I've got into cryptocurrency in the last 6 months who's now looking at me like, Geena, what have you done? I'm like, when you got in, I said, do not look at it for 3 years. Like, if you're not going to day trade, don't look at it for 3 years. And I really stand by that. I think that we're going to go through some massive hurdles here. I think there's so many factors that are completely outside of our control. But if you believe in the concept of a universal currency and things like that, I think it's just something that you want to learn and be a part of. And sometimes you just got to ride the winter.
It's all cycles, right? And I think that's something that we as women certainly understand, that there are cycles to everything, and we've seen this before and we'll see it again. So
yeah, I think that's kind of what we like about it too, though. Like, if you're in it at this point, or if you ever get into crypto, I feel like you're just kind of that kind of person. Like, you could lose a bunch of money, but you could also get kind of rich if you get lucky and you make the right bets, so
yeah,
obviously you never want to invest any more than you're willing to lose, because you very well might lose it. But I think that in general, if you're in crypto, you kind of like that roller coaster ride, because you just never know what's going to happen.
It's a type of person, right? Like, everyone in the corner of the NFT space that we're all in is like a curious kind of risk taker who's interested in like adventure and learning, has a kind heart, and has something going on in their life where they've got the time to invest in the learning. Like, there's a real kind of like there's a type that's in here, and I think it's why the community is so strong, because people look around and go, even though we're from complete different corners of the earth, everyone's in different industries and has different backgrounds and stories, there's this kind of unifying couple of factors that lead everybody to be incredibly like-minded. And so I think it is this really beautiful period where people are making very, very meaningful connections. And if we talk about the metaverse and all of this stuff that's coming, which I find a very daunting concept, the kind of utopian version of the metaverse is right now, when people are making these like-minded connections around the world that are very real and are also taking up a lot of people's time. So people are very invested in them. And I truly think a lot of these will be lifelong networking relationships in business and in kind of genuine friendships.
And I think, it's almost a trite saying at this point, but we're so early here that like it's the people that are in it, I think are at this point are the forward thinkers, the early adopters that are like, I see a really bright future with these technologies. I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know how it's going to pan out, but this is some serious stuff that we need to pay attention to. So
totally. I think all of this is experimentation, trying new models, trying new things. I actually think to a degree we're all holding each other to like too high a standard here, because this is the Wild West, and people should be allowed to experiment without getting it perfect the first time, because experimentation and failure is what makes round 2 way better. So that's excluding all of the rug pulls and all of the actual like bad actors in the space. Like, they can actually go away.
Right.
I won't swear in front of the baby, but they can get out of here. But I think there's something fun about the fact that everyone's trying to create cool things. And I know we want Web3 to be better than Web2, but it's never going to be better than anything unless we let people try and fail and try again. So I love watching people, make a mess of something and then have a comeback. And I think it's great.
Well, and it gives, I think, all of us permission to have those spectacular failures and to reach maybe just a little bit farther than we would have otherwise, because there is this giant cheerleading section cheering us on, and everybody's showing off their cuts and nicks and scrapes, where I think for me in the business world before, and even as a creator, it's hard to find people that are willing to show off those mistakes and those missteps, where for us, I think because we are so early and in a technology that none of us know, that we're able to kind of say, oh man, you got wrecked, well, look at this one, like look how bad I got wrecked. And so I think that just gives us all permission to be like, oh man, I am a dumpster fire today, I wonder who else is a dumpster fire and going to McDonald's to get a job today with me. So
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. Everything you just said is very true. Okay.
It's high highs, low lows.
So let's move on from the dumpster fires that we all know that we are at some point. So what do you think that the road to adoption looks like? And then how do you feel like you and your project are paving that road?
Well, I think it's interesting because I think crypto and NFTs have such a bad reputation. The moment I raise it with anyone in my network, they're all like, oh, well, good luck playing with that fake money. And you're like, oh, that's a weird attitude.
Right.
I don't know why you're so proud of that statement. That's a weird one.
I would like to introduce you to any government dollar.
Yes.
Right.
I'm like, you have a giant diamond on your finger. Like it's a weird thing that you're into that rock. Like I have plenty of rocks. Value is weird. I don't know what to tell you, lady.
And I got them for free outside.
Yes, I can stick it on my finger too. So it's, it's weird how much people want to fight this. And I think it's because, obviously when anything's building, everyone's skeptical of what it's going to be. But I also think the media is really kind of playing into these stories of scams and things like that. And so people are genuinely scared. And one of the things that has been so lovely for me is with the Cova Project's Cova Dignity Collection and with Honey Badgers, I'm able to explain what we're doing that's making the world a better place through blockchain technology. And that's a narrative that people haven't heard before. So I think kind of anything that's got a social impact layer, a peer-to-peer layer, or a charitable layer is that kind of communication tool to tell people like there's potential to build really cool stuff here that's going to help people. And it's not always about greed. And even when it is, about making money, oftentimes it's about financial independence and people who've never had that opportunity to make this kind of money because of, whatever reason it is. This is their opening. I mean, I have been so privileged to make money in this space where I could never make it because of my health. I can't go to a normal 9-to-5 job and sit in an office and do the commute in and out. I wouldn't be able to do that with my health. And this is something I can do in my pajamas in bed and be very, very good at it. And I'm stoked with that outcome. So there's all of these narratives that I'm lucky enough to be able to communicate to people that I think it's the first time that they've had the opportunity to even hear something positive about this that doesn't feel like gambling, degenerates, and all bad things. So that's where I consider myself to be super lucky. And I also think that is the key to this kind of shift, is getting a bunch of honestly like women and non-binary folk in front of people and saying, I've made money off my art for the first time in my career. I've been able to do this for the first time in my career. These are the doors that are open to me here that have always been shut to me. And I think the more we can bring those narratives to light, the more adoption we'll see.
I completely agree. And I think having more female voices in the space has really helped. Being able to really talk about who. I think women tend to care more about who than why. And so when we can talk about who we're impacting, I know for me that I've seen a big shift for that. One of the questions, and I love your story, and this is why I love your stories so much, because one of the questions that we get asked a lot is, I want to work in this space, but I'm not a coder, I'm not a developer. What do I do? How do I do that? And so what would be your advice for a woman who wants to get in this space? Like, do you have any tips for kind of paving your own path in this space?
Yeah, I mean, I think so for Honey Badgers, we had a female founder, myself, female artist in Aslan Ruby, and a female dev in our dev Strange. And everyone had their own strengths, but no one could do what the other person did. So I think there's plenty of room for different skill sets. And I think we often make this space feel like it's about like building and development. And building and development for me means a lot of things. The niche that I find myself in more often than not is that I'm like the dumbest person in the room when it comes to Web3, and then suddenly the smartest person in the room when it comes to the real world talking about Web3. So I'm just that communicator and that kind of facilitator of conversations between those two things. And that's super important, because you can be the best developer in Web3, but if you cannot communicate what you're doing, no one cares. So I think there needs to be like a whole heap of, and this is not a negative at all, this is very much something I see myself being and I'm very proud to be. There needs to be a whole heap of like average people in this space communicating what the heck is going on and bringing their unique skill sets in to help make the space better. And that's what I'm kind of excited to be a part of, is this group of people who are like, I need to learn. I don't know anything about anything. Someone teach me. But once you teach me, I'm going to go teach 50 other people. And those people who are the connectors, their superpower is generally like marketing and communication, which there is a huge need for. This space only really is growing the way it's growing because of communication platforms like Twitter. So if you're somebody who's very strong on those communication platforms, if you're somebody who is a great communicator and can do a podcast that teaches people about what the heck's going on, huge. So I think getting into Web3, wanting to work in Web3, it's just like, what do I currently do in real life that I'm really good at? And where is that gap in Web3? Because there are so many gaps, and all I see is people really wanting to bring on authentic people. That's something that is so missing in Web3. Everyone is terrified that they're going to get rugged, that their wallet's going to get drained, that there's a scam. One of the things that I say to the Honey Badgers community constantly, because they are constantly being sought after for jobs, is they're like, oh, I'm really worried I'm going to take on this job and I won't be qualified. And I'm like, you don't understand. People are trying to recruit you because you have a unique skill set of being trustworthy. You can't buy trust. So if you're someone who's authentically operating in this space, somebody who's become a voice for the people, you're already in demand, because people are terrified and people are really trying to build like meaningful projects that have already trust built into them. And just being an authentic member of the space makes you like a massive asset. So I think people get very caught up in this, I can't develop and my art looks like, an elephant did it with its trunk. And I'm like, that's me. Like, don't worry about it, just go with it. And I think once you find your community and your people, and if you have a really strong relationship with a project, and if that project has found success, you just reach out and you say, like, where can I be helpful? I'm really looking for a paid gig. And these are my strengths. And, it's one thing you can send a CV, but I also think it's Web3. You can send a video, you can send, something that's a little bit different and really pitch yourself as yourself, because there's so much need for diversity of skill sets as well as thinking. I think you just got to put yourself out there.
Yeah, that's great advice. I mean, and none of us have any idea what we're doing either. So
No.
it's like we don't even know what jobs are supposed to look like. We know what they're not supposed to look like. They're not
Yeah.
supposed to look like what we've been doing. What do you want to do? Make your own job.
That's it. That's it. And
And-
especially with projects, make your own projects. Like if you have a really great idea that you have not seen like anyone do yet, why not just start to launch the marketing for it and see if people are interested? Like there's no bounds here. Like go give things a go. Go take some risks. Like we said, you know, be a dumpster fire. No one's going to judge you for being a dumpster fire. Just be it for a hot minute and then you can come back from it. It's all good.
Because we're all doing it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
That needs to be on a t-shirt. No one's going to judge you for being a dumpster fire. What's the best part of Web3? Nobody's going to judge you for being a dumpster fire. I'm making a t-shirt and we're going to put your name on that one. We're adding that to the cryptocurrency merch site. That's awesome.
Hold on.
It's all yours.
Hold on. Jen, she just loves to have ideas and just like run with them. So maybe it's not the best idea, Jen, to have one of our guests have her name on a shirt that associates her with being a dumpster fire.
Fine.
Listen, I know my identity.
I identify with being a dumpster fire.
Yes. No, it's very important that everyone's aware.
Such a pride. It's such a position of pride when it's like, ooh, I am also a dumpster fire. Me too.
You got to find your people.
Oh man. Okay. So I'm going to ask you a couple additional questions here, but before we do that, because they're kind of like the very last thing that we do after every guest.
Okay.
But if you have some social media handles that you'd like to kind of let the people know about before we do that, you can go right ahead. I know you Honey Badges is on Instagram, right? You said you had a Twitter too as well.
All of our socials are Honey Badgers, and Badgers is ES, not ERS. If you go to Honey Badgers, you'll end up in like a staking crypto bro project, and then suddenly you'll be like, this doesn't feel like everything Geena was talking about. Why am I here? So it's Honey Badgers, like a badge that you would wear with pride, because that's kind of what we're all about, is like being change makers, you know, having something that is a little badge of honor. NFT. So Honey Badgers NFT on Instagram and Twitter. Please come check us out. We're a pretty fun project, I have to say. It's like we do all this change making stuff every month, and in between doing these grants and voting on these grants, it's a lot of like brunch recommendations and like, you know, foodie recommendations around the world. So it's a good time.
Yes, I think those were my favorite conversations back before I was, you know, preoccupied with the tiny human. Was the food talk. I mean, all the other stuff was enjoyable too, but man, I just love me some good food fantasy.
It's very out of hand. We now have like an active Google Maps where we literally log everyone's favorite restaurants from wherever they are in the world. And so you can go in, if you're traveling and you're in Paris, you're like, what Honey Badger said I should go where? It's very good. And NFT NYC has become a real hazard for us because there's big expectations on the food.
Well, I think the food map is probably reason enough to get yourself a honey badge if you don't have one already.
Yeah, exactly.
Because those people seem to know their food for sure.
They do.
Okay, so before you go, we want to ask you two important questions, and we want you to answer as honestly as possible, however it may pertain to you in your season of life. First question is, thinking back to when you first entered the Web3 crypto space, what do you wish you would have known?
Oh, so much. I wish I would have known about paid promotions. This is like when I started in the NFT space, I just went and followed a whole heap of, at the time, NFT influencers, including like Mark Cuban's company NFT and all of these things. And I was just keeping an eye on everything that they recommended. And I don't think there was the same kind of regulations around that as there was on like Instagram, this is a paid post. And so some of the moves that I made trying to make smart investments that didn't align with my values ended up to be massive rug pulls, where the project had simply paid, $20,000 to be featured on these credible sites, only to kind of bring in $200,000 and rug and disappear. So I wish I had known about paid promotions and the fact that if you're going to buy into something, you really should do your research. The phrase aping in, I am not a big fan of. I don't think you should ape into anything. I think you should absolutely do your research and truly only buy something that aligns with your values, because when it goes to zero, if it's sitting in your wallet and you look at it and you're still really proud to be a part of something or to get the extra value that comes with just what the project has to offer, that then isn't zero. It's just you didn't buy an investment, you bought a membership or something like that. So I think that's my biggest lesson, is like, I wish I'd known about the back end of how all these things are built.
That's good. Because like you said, on Instagram or Twitter, some of these other social media sites, you have to disclose when you're making an ad for a product. Whereas I don't think that's, especially in the beginning, not nearly heavily policed as it used to be, or as it is. So the second question is, when you think about the future of she in crypto Web3, what really gets you excited? What keeps you going on the more difficult days? And in other words, what is your she? What is your reason for continuing?
I think there's something like so magic about the financial independence that's coming from this space. So whether that is all of the women in art creating things and seeing sales for the first time, or whether that is, me back in the beginning of 2021, like making my first real bit of money through investments and learning that skill set, that's really exciting for me. I don't think there's that much ability to see growth, movement, and wealth redistribution like this in any other kind of investment strategy, certainly not one that's as accessible. We see in Australia, if you buy property, there's enormous growth in that, but like, who's got the $1 million to put down on an apartment in Sydney to even get started? It's not possible. So it's been really exciting for me to be able to watch a lot of women from countries that I work in get into this space and make money for the first time. And even if it's a situation where they're not even really allowed to pull that money out yet, or they're investing in NFTs through community members who are gifting them NFTs, and then one day when their country's kind of legislation catches up to everything, they'll be able to cash out one day. I think that is unbelievably exciting. And I think looking at that room for movement and accessibility in terms of the kind of financial landscape for women, that is like everything that I'm interested in, and certainly what keeps me very drawn in here.
That's wonderful. I think the best thing about crypto is, or Web3, or whatever you want to call it, is that it doesn't care who you are. It doesn't care if you invested $5 and turned it into 5,000, or if you invested 50,000 and turned it into 5 million, or if you're black or white or, woman or man or somewhere in between. Like, it doesn't care. Like, if you're making the decisions for yourself, if you are confident in your decision and you go for it, you have the same opportunity as everyone else, which is, I think, why another reason why I love it so much is I have the same opportunity. I'm not being held back by anybody, except for my own fear.
Totally.
My own hesitations. So,
and a 24/7 market is so interesting. Like, to me, when I was investing in US stocks, it was like, okay, well, I have to wait for the stock market to open, and that's why I'm asleep. So now I have to get up at this time if I want to do a trade. I want to do this and that. It was very demanding, and it didn't feel like it was made for me. It felt like I was participating in something that really didn't want me there. Whereas this, it feels like it's made for me. At any time I want to do a trade, I can do a trade. I can sell out, I can buy in. Like, it is available to everyone, and you can put $1 in. And I think that's a really it's a really exciting concept. And I am excited to watch the women who experience it find success, because I think it's that moment of like, oh my gosh, I can actually dive into this, and this feels like it was built for me. And that is something that I've never experienced anywhere else in my life in terms of the investment world. And so I've got all the time in the world for crypto, just based on giving me that kind of empowered feeling.
I love it. Absolutely love it. I think that's like the best way that we could end this episode. Like, just that feel good moment. Just makes you, it just gets you like re-energized and excited, even though we are in a bit of a bear market right now. Like, it's a good opportunity
empowered dumpster fires.
Yes.
Bear market.
I don't know.
We can title that episode. I'm happy for this to become my brand. Let's throw out the charitable aspect. Empowered dumpster fire, JD Anderson.
Perfect. Well, on that note, we are going to wrap up this episode.
That was fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, guys. I think that was really fun. And Hannah, I'm still impressed that you did that the entire time with the baby in your arms. But yeah,
he's pretty chill. So I mean, I can't. He's like the chillest baby ever. So I can't get too much credit for any of that, because he just basically slept through the whole thing, and now he's eating a bottle. So.
Very good. Very good.
Good luck at NYC NFT. I hope you get to make lots and lots and lots of connections. It looks like it's going to be a massive party. I had a buddy who went to the last one, and she was rolling with everybody and sending me all these pictures. She's like, why aren't you here? I'm like, I don't know, but it should be a good time, and hopefully lots and lots of recognition for what you're doing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Thanks.
I appreciate that. Thanks for having me. I really, really appreciate it.
That wraps up our conversation for today. If you have any suggestions or questions regarding this episode or any others, please let us know on social media. Thanks for finding the time to visit with us, and we hope to chat with you again soon here at Cryptocurrency.